I think that this accumulation of fans as well as world building is probably the secret to the success, along with the innovativeness that comes with Damien's crazy brain.
He keeps expanding, so it becomes more of a fun canvas, and it creates more of a world, and I think a lot of people are enjoying this world, and that means a lot to us. Now with the bigger budget, Damien always writes like a $200 million budget film and expands the world. There's so many more locations and everything. So everything's bigger. Yeah. Everything's bigger. And two, Damien was wearing so many hats. So he was directing, he was doing special effects, and he was on everything. So very hands-on. So here he had the Christian Tinsley and his team, Heather Ryan, doing a lot of the effects, even though he was in there with the paintbrush too to make sure everything was his style. Yeah. So I think just seeing Damien focus on directing a bit more was really cool too. And I just think when we see something that's a little bit familiar to all of us, it's a little more natural. It absorbs yourself into the world a little more. And I think it's just like, we all treasure like that time period, I feel like. And I'm not sure exactly what about it, but I think it just seems like cozy and home-like for everyone.
No, I agree fully. I think anybody who is a horror fan has probably had a parent that has introduced them to horror, or a family member or something. So they probably started with the classics. So there is this nostalgia quality to it. But I don't necessarily think that's always the recipe for success for horror, but I can totally understand why it appeals to so many audience members. Like Olga said, it's very familiar, and it feels like a comfort movie in a strange way.
And it's always like our subtle like homage to all the classic 80s horror films, like, you know, and we're just expanding on that in a modern way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because he has characteristics of some of the most iconic slashers, and that's he has the personality. He has a big personality similar to Freddy and Chucky, but he's also stoic like Jason and Michael, and I think along with David's isms, like his mannerisms and his physicality and things of that nature, and with the way Damien can edit him to look horrifying. I think all of that is what makes it so unique and both nostalgic but very current.
For me, like as a classic film fan, he has these elements that are almost like Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, or Mr. Bean even. Yeah. So that makes him lovable, like even for a second. And then he switches so fast to maniacal and extremely sociopathic. So that extreme, like from this to this, from being lovable to extremely scary, is very unique to me. So Damien is extremely collaborative with all of us. He loves to be involved in all the details of the film. So as a production designer and a costume designer, there's a lot of things that I have to look for when I'm reading the script in terms of special effects. So, for example, for the costumes, I will need to read the script and I know how many copies of each costume we need because of blood, because of things, because we don't film in sequence. Yeah. We often have to go very old way and then come back. So we have to keep an eye on all these things. So say I need like 12 Art the Clown costumes made, custom made. So production design route, like especially in the finale scene and everything, there's a lot of things and variables to anticipate, such as working with the stunt team and knowing how many breakables we need, how many copies of lamps and all these things. We have to protect the homes from all the blood sprays and all the, you never know when we're doing these things, if it's going to go on the ceiling, if it's going to go on the wall. So all these things we have to anticipate, and I go over all these elements with Damien.
For Terrifier 2 specifically, some of the homework that I gave myself was watching all of my favorite slashers of all time, including Halloween, Scream, Nightmare on Elm Street, and what I did was I wrote a list of all the characteristics of the final girls, and I would circle the characteristics that I thought aligned with Sienna, and I would send them to Damien, and he would either agree or disagree. So it was truly a collaborative process. Specifically for 2, for 3, I think she's evolved into maybe like her own entity, but I was very inspired by the final girls that raised me. What's so interesting and amazing about Final Girls is we get to see in real time a woman fight back, because they don't always have the luxury to in some of the saddest stories. And I think it's empowering for women to see that, like you had mentioned, and to know that even if they do feel weak or like small framed, or that they can't maybe take on this big strong serial killer, they have the strength within themselves and the wits about them to do it, and that's why Final Girls have always meant so much to me, and that's why I love all the iconic Final Girls, because they've truly, growing up watching them, have made me feel that I can do anything and I can't be touched, and I think maybe that's why I'm playing one now. I think growing up, I really loved the Halloween franchise, especially 1978. I would watch it every Halloween and even throughout the year. So Laurie Strode is very important to me. But I think in recent years, I've really gravitated more towards Mia Allen, who's in the Evil Dead 2013 version. And I just think Jane Levy did such an incredible job playing the villain, the protagonist and the antagonist, and I was just blown away by her performance. Well, I mean, her journey has definitely been an emotional one and an exhausting one, but I really feel like exploring her trauma was the logical next step, considering what she went through, and that's one thing I would like to see like more with just Final Girls in general. Like maybe I felt that maybe sometimes trauma is definitely a trope now in horror, but I think we approach it in a way that's a bit unique. We allow Sienna to be flawed this time, and even though we can see her as strong, I think her strength lies within her flaws, and that she doesn't believe that she can accomplish these things, yet she continues to strive to do so. Maybe not so much for herself, but particularly for the people that she loves. My favorite part, and it's very anti like what the film is Timmy's death in the third one, because you don't see it happen.
Yeah.
It's the first death of the movie, and it hits so viscerally because it's all sound design. And I think there's this beauty in the unseen, and there's this horrifying factor of using your imagination. So again, I'm so incredibly impressed with the practical effects, but that really was a refreshing change.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pick a favorite, but
Yeah.
I love that opening sequence. Like, Chrissy Fox does such a great job, too. Like, her screaming on set, I had goosebumps all over, because you felt her pain. Like, she was very, very good. Watching the final edit, you have to remember that when we're doing the scene, we don't hear those sounds that you're hearing in Timmy's bedroom when Art goes in there. So as a viewer last night, I was like, whoa, like, this is so crazy. Yeah, those sounds really like get in you. It's very sick, and it is the first kill of the movie, so it just sets up the next 2 hours, right? So it's cool.